Look up Mark 12:29 and 30. Jesus called this the greatest commandment. Why do you think this command is so important? You're taking the words and now you're saying, what does it mean? Why is it so important? Why do you think these things are important? Next question, what do you think it realistically means to love God with all your heart, your soul, your mind, and your strength? The questions are becoming more personal. What does this mean to you? It's also making the passage more relevant to my life. It is moving from a theoretical, theological discussion to a personal, life-changing application. But we have to make it progressive. We can't just start there. Let's go on. The last thing we want to do when we're writing Bible studies or discussion questions, again, as authors, as writers, our heart is to change lives, is to impact people's lives, to have people, help people to learn from our experiences or learn from our wisdom, if we have any, and learn from my fiction, whatever. And I want it to make an impact. So I am always leading toward empowering action, and we call these application questions. How does it affect me personally? What positive action, attitude, or alteration can the reader take away and apply to her own life? We want to stimulate, motivate, and instigate decision, action, and change. That's where we're headed with our questions. Or, as I learned a long time ago, we want to know how can we use all this in the kitchen. Basically, bring that back up. How can we use it in the kitchen? One of the best Bible study teachers I ever had was 30 years ago in Denver. He was a theologian priest. He held these incredible Bible studies in his basement. It was fabulous. We would come and we would sit and we would hear things like what the definition of metanoia was, and it was so incredible. And then I would go home and I would have 5 children screaming and laundry up to here, and metanoia didn't matter anymore because I couldn't use it in my kitchen. I couldn't use the Greek derivative in my kitchen. Now, there's nothing wrong with Greek derivatives. I use them all the time in my teaching, or the Hebrew word for this, because it helps us to learn better. But if you don't make it usable in the kitchen, then it just all stays here. And most of us don't want our words, our Bible studies, our small groups, our discussion groups to stay here. We want it to lead to action. We want it to change lives. So we need to always kind of ask ourselves at the end of a study, how can we use it in the kitchen? Because if I can't use it in my real life, then I'm just going on to the next book, and it's not going to change my life. We need to make it personal. When you go to this last empowering action application step, you want to make these questions personal without prying into their life. You want to make it practical. Application needs to be something that they can actually do. Seriously, we can say something like, this week, how can you convince 6 of your neighbors to follow the great commandment? But you know what? That's not practical. It's not doable. We need to make sure that what we're asking them to do and what their next steps and what to consider is something that's practical. Make it possible. I'm not going to convince the president to do anything I say because I don't know his phone number. I know people who know his phone number, but I'm not one of them. And then make it corporate or public. I think I have on your thing. And I use public on your handout because it starts with P and everything else starts with P. Why your computer didn't get my final form of PowerPoint, I will never know.
All my fault.
I'm sure it is. I know, that is the keeper. But essentially, as Christian writers, regardless of where we write, what we are writing these questions for, being a Christian, being a Christ follower, by definition, means that I am part of the body of believers. I am not a Lone Ranger. And we do not want to encourage others to be Lone Rangers. Reach out to one another. It's our Christian DNA. And so we want to ask questions that either encourage people to reach out to someone or to reach out for someone.